Alright, you guys, so recently I made a video talking about basically why you don't need carbohydrates to be healthy or to survive. And I labeled that, Why Do You Eat Carbohydrates? And I got a lot of responses to that video, and most of them are based on misinformation. The first one that I got the most often was because they're healthy or because they're full of antioxidants. The second most common answer I got was because I need glucose to create hair follicles, or because I need glucose to produce tears, or because carbohydrates give us energy, or I'm an athlete. So I actually made a video just now about how your body actually produces its own antioxidants without any need for plant foods at all on its own. Okay, go check that out if you haven't already, but in a nutshell, glutathione and superoxide dismutase are your body's primary endogenous antioxidants, and your body can actually create these from amino acids like cysteine, methionine, and glycine, in addition to cofactors that's typically found in the whole animal food. So, for example, an egg has the egg white, which contains cysteine, methionine, and glycine. And then it also contains vitamin B12, choline, and a variety of other vitamin and mineral cofactors that combine with the amino acids to create glutathione. And your body actually fights off viruses and free radical damage and these things very effectively simply by taking these amino acids and cofactors found in whole animal foods. Your body also stores amino acids in your muscle tissue, as well as some of these vitamins and minerals, even water-soluble ones, can be found in the body stored away. So during periods of prolonged fasting, your body can actually produce antioxidants on its own. And there's a lot of people who remove plant foods completely and experience remission in their inflammatory bowel syndromes. I, for one, was one of them. And experience remission in their chronic autoimmune diseases and a variety of other factors. And there's thousands of people who have found this. And then they successfully reintroduce specific plant foods over time without remission or without reoccurrence of their chronic disease. And I actually interviewed my friend Jason, Leukemia Slayer, recently, who who actually put his leukemia into remission back in 2017 on a mostly carnivorous diet, just conventionally raised turkey and eggs. And he kept it in remission since, and he now eats mostly a carnivorous diet. So you don't really need antioxidants for cancer prevention. Anyway, check out the video I just recorded for more information on that. This video is going to be about the second most common answer I got, which is, I need carbohydrates to produce glucose for energy and for hair follicles and for tears, okay? So first of all, I'm a ketogenic athlete, okay? And right now I eat mostly pork chops and about 4 ounces of liver every couple days, which only contains about 4 grams of carbohydrates, give or take, from, stored glycogen in the liver. Now, so I competed in my first Muay Thai exhibition match in November of 2019, and I have the highlights up on my YouTube channel. You can check it out. The whole fight, I'm bouncing around, okay? And I was keto about 9 months at that point, and I ate about half a pound of zero carb pepperoni, a couple hours before the bout to load up on sodium and just to stay full, right? My opponent ate nothing but fruit leading up to the bout. And when we fought, the whole time I'm bouncing around, I'm throwing kicks and combos and spinning shit, and he just throws a combo every now and then, right? I had more stamina, more explosiveness, better mental clarity, better performance on zero carbs. And I've been training multiple times a day while fasted for over a year now on a ketogenic diet. So I can tell you with certainty, if you do it right and you're eating a minimum of 5 grams of sodium per day, and eating adequate protein, because most people on keto diets restrict protein because they think that they need to eat low protein to produce more ketones, which ruins your athletic performance completely, no matter what diet you're on. So as long as you're eating enough protein, and as long as you're eating enough sodium and minerals, you don't actually need carbohydrates for athletic performance. So here's the thing. When you restrict carbohydrates below 30 grams of net carbs per day, over time, your body starts to produce glucose and glycogen from free fatty acids and a glycerol backbone of triglycerides. So your body mostly, as far as I understand it, it mostly can break down body fat and convert it into glucose and glycogen through gluconeogenesis. So gluconeogenesis does not just magically convert protein into glucose, like a lot of keto gurus will tell you. Gluconeogenesis primarily converts fat into glucose and glycogen, okay? And as far as I know, it's body fat stores, not dietary fat, okay, as far as I know. Dietary fat has to get stored over time as caloric energy in adipose tissue, and then your body breaks down adipose tissue to fuel glycogen demands and the brain demand. And you know, this one of my subscribers says he needs glucose for hair growth. So whatever demand your hair follicles need to produce hair from glucose, it will be supplied from body fat stores through gluconeogenesis. There's absolutely zero need for carbohydrates in the diet, especially for producing glucose, okay? Dietary carbohydrates are not needed to produce endogenous glucose. And so your primary source of glucose and glycogen through gluconeogenesis is fat. Secondarily, as far as I know, the body will break down muscle tissue for amino acids, but that's only when your body fat reaches dangerously low levels through starvation. Okay, first it's the the stored fat, and the free fatty acids. Okay, then when you're in chronic fasting and starvation, you're not eating enough protein, and you're at dangerously low body fat, your body will start to break down muscle tissue, and you'll look like Eugene Cooney, basically. But on a standard ketogenic diet with adequate protein and calories, your body doesn't just break down muscle tissue or dietary protein and convert it into glucose. Okay, it doesn't. It turns fat first and foremost. So the next thing is that gluconeogenesis is a demand-driven process. So even if your body converted dietary protein into carbohydrates, it only will do that when there's a demand. So what does that mean? A demand for carbohydrates would be your brain is low on glucose, so it'll pull glucose from gluconeogenesis. Your muscles need glycogen. It'll pull glycogen from gluconeogenesis. And so even in ketosis, your body still maintains normal levels of blood glucose. And some people might have elevated blood glucose, elevated fasting blood glucose, because of exercise and fasting. It requires more energy, so you have more LDL to transport fatty acids through the bloodstream. But you might also have elevated fasting blood glucose to supply the demand for glycogen and glucose from the deficit that's caused by exercise, because you're burning glycogen and glucose through exercise. Now your body mobilizes glucose into the bloodstream to supply that demand from gluconeogenesis. And that's probably one of the reasons why some people on carnivore diets like Sean Baker have elevated blood glucose. Also because, as far as I know, he did an exercise session leading up to his blood test. But yeah, so insulin resistance is what you need to worry about as far as glucose is concerned, and that's measured by fasting insulin tests. Anyway, I'm getting way off subject here. So your body supplies whatever glucose demand it needs by converting fat and amino acids, like alanine is one gluconeogenic amino acid, alanine. So if you take beta-alanine, for example, your body could convert the alanine in the beta-alanine supplement or the pre-workout supplement into a carbohydrate. Now, you also have an intervention trial. Or actually, it's more of a, would it be an intervention trial or a cohort study? It could be either one. But basically, the FASTER study by Stephen Finney and Jeff Volok compared elite level cyclists one to another. So they had keto adapted elite cyclists, and they went head to head with carbohydrate adapted cyclists. And they did like an hour long all out go on the indoor bicycles. And they measured glycogen content with muscle biopsies and other things. And what they found is that the keto adapted cyclists actually refuel glycogen faster. I believe it was at double the rate compared to the carb adapted elite level cyclists. These are elite level athletes, and they're doing an hour long all out cycle, okay, if I remember it correctly. And so, I mean, sure, that might be pushing the oxidative energy system, right? That might be considered an endurance event. But when you look at cyclists and also the amount of energy they're producing, they're actually measuring the METs, which, you know, the amount of force production and the amount of energy they were producing. And they found that the keto-adapted athletes either they perform just as well or even better than the carb-adapted elite cyclists. And they refilled glycogen faster, up to 2 times faster. That's why they call it the FASTER study, right? So we have studies that show that keto-adapted athletes refill glycogen up to 2 times faster, and they refill glycogen after their workouts. And that's compared to, and also this was after consuming a post-workout shake as well. So the carb-adapted athletes had a high-carb shake, and the fat-adapted athletes had a fat shake. Okay? So there were no carbs in the keto-adapted athlete shake, yet they still refilled glycogen up to 2 times faster, compared to the carb-adapted athletes who consumed the high-carb shake. So even though there was post-workout carbs for the high-carb athletes, the keto-adapted cyclists still refill glycogen faster. That's pretty crazy, man. That's pretty crazy. So my experience as a keto-adapted athlete has been that I recover faster from workouts, where I'm able to do 2 to 3 workouts on a 21-hour fast, eating 1 meal a day as long as I eat adequate amounts of calories. And if I do bulletproof coffee before my workout and then midday, I can fast for a long time with 0 performance detriments. I do hard sparring. Now I'm doing mostly jiu-jitsu, heavy bag rounds and interval training, hitting the mitts, powerlifting, Olympic weightlifting. If you look at my Instagram page, you'll see that I exercise very intensely. And I have done carbohydrate experiments. I've tried targeted keto. I've tried cyclic keto. And I've tried like 1 to 3 weeks of a carb up. And I've actually found greater performance on ketogenic metabolism and worse performance on whenever I do any kind of carb experiment other than a targeted keto diet. I've made videos about all of this over and over again, and people still don't understand. So, you know, there's some people who have tried like targeted keto where they eat like 10 to 20 grams of dextrose before their workout, and they find that their performance might increase. Well, part of that might be the sugar high, because sugar has actually been proven as a performance enhancer, And when sugar was refined sugar was first heavily introduced to the diet back in the early 90s, there were sports physiologists who were actually recommending sugar as kind of like an ergogenic aid, like creatine. So sugar was like the pre-workout of like the early 90s. People don't know that. And part of that is also the mental high that it gives you. And there's many different theories on fatigue, like exercise fatigue, right? And overtraining. One of them is higher serotonin, leading to lethargy and tiredness. Another one is a central nervous system governor, where basically it's a preventive mechanism to prevent injury, where you just feel tired as a result of neurology and psychology rather than actual physical damage. So where I'm getting at this is that carbohydrates could very well prevent or mitigate some of the fatigue. And I find that 20 grams of dextrose is a maximum amount of carbs that seem to kind of like give me a mental edge, but not a performance edge. I have not seen any increases in any tangible metric of performance. My heavy bag times, my performance during rounds and things like that, sparring and my strength, not at all. I seem to have less endurance when I eat more carbs, but I feel kind of mentally high when I eat dextrose or carbs, and that's pretty much it. But at the same time, most people on ketogenic diets don't eat enough sodium. Okay, so when you eat carbohydrates, as I mentioned in my last video, entitled "Why Do You Eat Carbohydrates?" I talked about how the main benefit of carbohydrates is fluid retention and mineral retention. So you need at least 5 grams of sodium per day minimum on a ketogenic diet. Now, after a couple months of a strict keto or carnivore diet, people report that they need less salt because their body adapts to retain water and minerals on less carbs. But in the beginning, if you don't get at least 5 grams of sodium per day, that's about a whole tablespoon of salt, then you will, without question, experience reduction in mood, sleep, performance. You'll experience cramping and lethargy and mood imbalances, not because you're deficient in glucose, but because you have hyponatremia. And people are scared of eating a tablespoon of salt. They think that they're going to die. When, in fact, you probably have low blood pressure, which is, postural hypotension. That's low blood pressure, which causes dizziness and almost you could black out when you go from a sitting position to a standing position. That's a sign of low salt and low blood pressure. And that's one of the main things that people report on ketogenic diets in the first 2 months. The other thing is low energy and fatigue. Well, guess what? When you have hyponatremia, fatigue and lethargy are big symptoms. And if you can just get it through your head that you need 5 grams of sodium minimum per day on a ketogenic diet, especially if you're an athlete and you're sweating, what you'll find is after a couple days of maintaining that sodium intake, you sleep amazing. Your mood is amazing. Your performance in the gym is amazing. And then you feel dumb for being scared of sodium. And then hopefully you read The Salt Fix by Dr. James D. Nicol Antonio or whatever, so you can understand why you actually feel better on higher salt intake. So yeah, some of the performance benefits you might see when you do targeted keto or whatever could easily be fluid retention because you're slacking on sodium, especially if you do targeted keto every single day. But typically people feel sluggish for a while after eating carbs. Another thing is, a lot of people don't eat enough calories. I mean, there's so many reasons, but you don't need carbohydrates for glucose production. and there's all these experts and people. I just finished up my NASA personal training certification, and they keep talking about how important it is to eat carbs all day to refill glycogen stores. And it's madness. It's just not the case. So for more information, you can read the work of Stephen Finney and Jeff Follock, and you can just search it up all over the internet. But I'll make more videos on this in the future. So yeah, I don't know if your body needs glucose to create tears or glucose for hair growth, but if it does, it will supply that demand from fatty acids and amino acids on a ketogenic metabolism. You don't need dietary carbohydrates to produce glucose or energy. And ATP is a primary source of energy in the body, and carbohydrates are just one way of making ATP. But lactic acid and various other substances in the body can also contribute towards creating ATP. So I'll leave you guys with that. Leave your questions down below. Let me know in the comments any questions y'all have, or if you have some solid points to make on why I'm wrong and you have some intervention trials or something, I'd love to see them. Post them down below, and I'll talk to y'all next time.